So, we have Raj Wanniappa, CEO of Future Horizon Technology. We've got Sean Reitz, the CEO of United Drone Holdings, UDH, as it's sometimes referred to in the press, and Heidi Patmore, CEO of Stellaris. So welcome, the three of you. Thank you so much, Heidi, for your scintillating talk a little bit earlier. I wanted to start with you, Heidi. And obviously, I think we're all excited about the future of drone tech and what's been happening recently. And obviously, we've seen a lot of movement in the drone industry. It's becoming more and more accessible. But what you've painted to us is, we saw a video earlier of a guy stepping into a drone, putting his briefcase in the back, and he's obviously going somewhere. He looks like he's going places. The question that I have for you is, how realistic is that? How accessible is it? Do you have to have in the future, you mentioned 4 years from now, are we talking about a guy who, that guy looked like an Arabian Robin Thicke, and he has 2.5 million rand.
I thought he was quite sexy, actually.
Do we got to look like Robin Thicke and have 2.5 million rand in order to fly a freaking flying car?
Yeah. So Fred, great question. Shame you gave that guy such a bad rap. He's quite a hottie. So let me tell you about the EHang 184. So they actually make drones, like recreational drones. They make something called the ghost drone. So they sell it on the market, etc., etc. And without telling anyone, they just made this passenger drone and put it at CES. But it blew up. A year later, Dubai Road and Transit Authority announces that July this year, as in this month, that will be a reality in Dubai. So I'm and then they bring out that video. That was in January that they actually brought the video out. So, but then in the promotional video, the guy's not actually in the drone. So, how realistic is that? So, to be quite honest, passenger drone as personal aviation is not my favorite mode of transport. Drones are very fickle. Sean will know. To fly a drone is hard. And lots can go wrong. And I think it's quite a flimsy technology. I think even though, it's not very robust. So I'm not sure that a passenger drone as a flying car is going to be the best model. And I also think Dubai likes to just tell us, yeah, we're doing it all. It's happening, okay? But realistically, well, we'll see. By 30th of July, we'll see if it actually happens, okay? But luckily, they've got regulation on their side. So what's nice about that sort of initiative is that the government says, okay, we'll change the laws so you can do this pilot project, which is great. And they also use they also want the Volocopter. They've signed an agreement with them. That was the one that looks like the fancy DJI that the guy on the ground has to fly. So that doesn't make any sense. But if you were to take a different kind of flying car like the Lilium Jet, that absolutely, they say that that'll be on the market next year, okay? And they're talking to Uber. They're speaking to Jeff Holden, who is the chief product officer of Uber. They're talking already. So I think that will happen. And I think flight on demand is much more likely to happen than you and I go shopping for a 5 million rand flying car. But on demand, I think, is very realistic.
Okay, so Sean, at United Drone Holdings, first of all, before we get into the question, just a quick word about what it is that you actually do, just to introduce yourself.
So what do I do?
Yes. How do you spend your day?
I'm in the most exciting field ever. I'm an entrepreneur in the drone field. We've got a commercial, corporate B2B business, very wide-spanning drone company. So everything from training to field operations. Okay,
and as part of that, you have been commissioned and you've worked on a report, quite a wide impacting report that's recently been released. Can you tell us a little bit about that report?
Yeah, so I think the question, there's a big audience here, there's lots of people, lots of interest. And the world of drones is almost undefined. What is a drone? It's a little thing, it's a big thing. We'll probably get into discussion around that. 2016, PwC published a report around the market opportunity for drones globally. And the number was $127 billion. And that got people thinking. That's a proper number. And if you Google what the market opportunity worldwide for drones is, you'll hear that the $127 billion is a 2015 number, then you'll hear it's a 2016 number, you'll hear it's a 2030 number, then the currency's changed, then somebody says rubbish, it's $1 billion number, somebody says it's $1 trillion number. And the reality is that nobody really knows. It's a big opportunity. And so when you get into a South African context, if you want to be engaging government and you want to be engaging the Civil Aviation Authority and other stakeholders, it's helpful to understand, what is the South African part of that? So South African percentage of world GDP is less than 1%, and so does that correlate? And so we, through the CASA, Commercial Aviation Association of South Africa, and CUASA, the Unmanned Aviation Association, we commissioned a market review. And Dr. Rudolf Buerta published that and presented at a conference about probably just over 3 weeks ago. And his impression of what the market in South Africa is right now is that it's a 2 billion rand market in 2017 and has the potential to generate in excess of 30,000 jobs. But if you start looking at it and say, is there, we're a drone company, we consider ourselves to be one of the bigger drone companies, the numbers that are being, the turnover numbers are nothing close to that. But if you think about what drones are doing in terms of, farmers looking at their farms, engineers checking out engineering works, drones are active everywhere. And so it's about, are we looking at what they invoice on a monthly basis or what they are contributing to the economy? The fact is a starting point and the data will only get better.
Okay, so that neatly segues us to you, Raj. You're essentially an investor as a sort of bucket term. I know you're a lot more than that, but in investment terms, Raj, what are you the most excited about in terms of the various companies and technologies that we've been speaking about tonight?
Yes, thanks, Fred. I'm very pleased to be living in an age where everything's about disruption. You asked me that question, and I'm involved in various tech ventures across cryptocurrency, data analytics, and of course drone technologies. I'm a chairman of a company called Omnipresent Global. And we do similar services to Sean's, but we look at very, very specific areas, so I want to get into that. But the first question about what Heidi presented here is, that's drone. Then you've got the small drone that you have there. We're talking to companies that want to carry tons of weight using drones. Now, they're completely incomparable. You've got what's called underwater drones. Now, drone, another word for it is UAV, which you've probably heard about, unmanned aerial vehicle. Aerial, underwater drone, it doesn't make sense. You can even extend a driverless car as a drone, in that concept as you move to that. So, and this is where also in terms of Sean's market size, which we have looked at as well, is saying, what is it? From an investor perspective, lastly, is I don't care what Uber is doing. Let them go and spend their 70 billion valuation on sort of things. What can we do in South Africa and Africa? And that's what some of the services that Omnipresent Global provides.
Okay. So back to you, Heidi. If the average Joe is keen to get into drones, is it a case of just going through to, Dion Wide and picking up a DJI Mavic Pro, or is it a little bit more serious? What do we need to know in terms of getting into drones?
So I think it's quite an expensive hobby, like Sean will know. And there's quite a few drones out there. So when I was trying to get into the space, like the cheapest one that was sort of worthwhile to buy was around 7,000 Rand. So, unless you know someone who's got a drone, it's quite hard to kind of figure out where the drones are for you, okay? And then the next one up is the DJI, the Phantom, which is 40,000 Rand. Now, if you wanted to get into it, first thing you need to know is that as a recreational user, so if you want to just do it for fun as a hobby, you can absolutely go to a shop and go and buy a drone and then go and fly it. But you need to know, the most important thing is safety. So I'll give you an example of this toy that I bought, okay? I walked into Hamleys, I was like, I don't want to spend a lot of money, I just want to see how it works. So spend 1,000 Rand, go to the park with my 2 kids, okay? So we get to the park. Now, I've never flown a drone in my life, all right? But I'm thinking, okay, I'm outdoors, so I'm not going to kill my kids. So I like put the thing together, and I put the battery in, and blah, blah, blah. And I start flying it. This thing like shoots up like a bat out of hell, 25 meters into the air in the park. Now, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like playing with the thing. Off it goes, across the road, avoids a bus, and then it's like hovering above a petrol station, okay? Now I'm like, fuck, and I've got my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old, like, I can't, like, anyway, don't know what to do, so I just let it drop 25 meters out there, doosh, onto the forecourt, okay? Then I'm like, now I've just paid a flipping 1,000 rand for this thing, and now a truck's gonna drive over it. So abandon my children in the park, bolt to the petrol station, pick it up off the floor and come back. So don't do that, okay? Fly it in your house first, because then you can like hit the walls. But if you're really serious, so I'm just kidding, but it is a true story. My first ever drone experience. Then I went back to Hamleys and I was like, yes, you should have told me what this thing can do. And then he taught me how to fly it in the store. And by the end, I was like flying it around Hamleys. So you can get there. You can learn in like a couple of weeks. You can get quite good at it. If you want to be a recreational user, you're not allowed to fly. I mean, you'll know the laws better than I do, but you can't fly within 50 meters of a road. You can't fly anywhere where there's people, not near an airport, anything like that. So, like, if you're going to just try it in your house, like, do it in a house or a hall before, like, just figure it out first, okay? But if you decide it's for you and you think, okay, cool, I can go and be a drone pilot now, which is actually a big thing. You can actually go to a company in South Africa called Drone Snap, and you can sign up as a drone pilot, and they will pair you with people who are looking for drone pilots for things like inspection or like video and that sort of thing. But, I mean, what I would ideally like to do is I'm going on United Drone Holdings course to go and be a remote pilot license, to go get an RPL license, which is the license that you need to fly a drone commercially. For that, you need to, like, I was quite shocked. I was like, first of all, are you going to give me a discount? It's 40 grand to go on their course for a week. You've got to take 7. No, but like this is the market. It's not like you really are gaining quite a skill. So like, I mean, you know, I'm just a bit snob. But yeah, so it's quite a big investment. And once you decide to do it, you can actually get the money back. But you've got to go and spend that money. You've got to go and do an aviation medical. So you've got to go and see a doctor and do the same medical test that an airline pilot has to do to get licensed. Okay? And you need an English competency certificate as well, which they'll usually accept your matric certificate if you want to do it. So, yeah, if you're going to do it for fun, like start small, little bit of money, see if you like it, find a friend who's got a drone, fly it around a bit. There's loads of fun things you can do. There's a drone racing company that you can go and like race these things against other people. There's lots of fun that you can have recreationally.
Yeah, so it's clearly becoming more and more accessible to the general public. I mean, Sean, okay, first of all, you're dropping names like Dr. Roelof Botha. That's not casual. We're talking about, you know, one of the most...
species.
Yeah, we're talking about one of the most serious venture capitalists in the world, and possibly...
Not the same guy, though, eh?
Is it not?
I'm so
okay,
disappointed.
all right. So it's not Roelof from...
I think it's his
Wyatt.
dad.
Sequoia.
Dad or his uncle, yeah.
Okay.
So but he's an economist.
It's in the family.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Genes run strong.
So we're talking about something whereby there's a hell of a lot of interest, and it's clearly, you know, it's becoming widespread and accessible to the average Joe. I mean, let's talk about safety for a second. I mean, last week, if I'm correct, it was Gatwick was closed by...
It happens every week.
You know, by the...
Every week one airport is shut down because of a drone.
And I mean, I recall earlier where I live in Heid Bay, earlier this year, there was a huge fire, and the helicopters, who do such an amazing job in this country to ensure, I mean, we've got one of the best firefighting forces on the planet in this country. They could not do their job because some palooka was flying a drone trying to get footage of the fire. How are we going to enforce that?
Yeah, I think if we can talk about the hobbyist and then the commercial pilot. Sure. I mean, I'm a helicopter pilot. So, and if you're looking at a drone business is an aviation business. It's not a industrial business or a mining business or a photography business, it's an aviation business. And if you look at it, it's regulated by the CAA or the FAA or whichever country regulation it's in. And people don't understand that. And I think that's the big issue. I was chatting to someone before I came here, and this person was saying, I bought myself a new Phantom 4 Pro, 40,000 Rand or whatever it might be.
A plane.
He took out his drone, he was flying it around, and he was telling me what he did with it. And I was saying, but do you realize that you were completely non-compliant? And he goes, oh, I didn't know. And that's what we hear all the time. So if you think about, I mean, the world that I operate in is the commercial world. It's a formal business, it's an aviation type world. And unfortunately, the technology is the same. Whether you're using a Phantom to play with or using a Phantom to do an inspection of an explosion on a mine, it's the same device. So it's different hats that people wear. And theoretically, people will progress through this. But the real issue is around education and discipline. And it's guys that don't know what they're doing, or people that don't know what they're doing, that land up creating lots of real challenges. So I think my personal view is that these airports shutting down all the time and all these issues, often it's not drones. So there are, if you read on the internet, a drone hit a 737. There are very few actual recorded incidents of drone impact. The fact is that people are very sensitive around drones. And it's obviously something that in South Africa there's an estimate of around, I don't know, between 40 and 50,000 drones in South Africa at the moment. It's a lot, and it's going to get more. And so I think there's more of a risk in the future of drones being uncontrolled, and companies like DJI are actually putting in software into the flight control systems to prevent them from going to the White House or to national key points and things like that in certain countries. And I think you're going to see more of that happening. Getting back to the commercial aspects of it and why we commissioned the study is that I think, being a drone pilot, 40,000 Rand for attending a training school, and we are one of our businesses is one of the 4 accredited training schools in South Africa. It's about really driving a professional industry. It's not something that you just get off the internet, buy a drone and then get the software, and now you're a surveyor, or now you're involved in mining. These are all very serious businesses that are highly regulated on their own space. I mean, just getting on a mine, I look at all the tidy shoes here. I was standing on a coal mine earlier today, and it's an untidy place. But it's a very formal environment that has its very safety focused, and drones are very useful, but they also, there's an elevated risk, the perception of elevated risk with drones. And that's got to be mitigated through training.
Okay, so on that note, I was with my good friend Rich Mahalandi, you mentioned earlier. He's a bit of a hooligan himself. He bought a shiny new, I think it was a DJI, and we were sitting at Cafe Manhattan in De Waterkant in Cape Town, and he promptly whipped this thing out and started flying it in the street. And I hope he doesn't get arrested for this, but the reality is he stopped traffic, and he was banging it against like a tree and into people, and there was literally a little traffic jam that kind of emerged there. Now, so we had fun, but it kind of illustrated to me that this could be hazardous.
If I can just comment there quickly, Richard is a friend of mine too.
Yeah.
And when he said to me he's got this new drone, it's a Mavic, he opened it up and he put it outside a coffee shop in Cape Town. The next minute it was gone. And I was like, Rich, you can't do that. And he goes, no, it's easy. You just push this button. It'll come back now. And I said to him, well, you're using your phone. Your phones run out of battery all the time. And he's going, no, it's fine. And he sends me a message afterwards saying, shit, you won't believe it. My battery went flat. And that's the problem. Rich is a super intelligent guy. He's a really good businessman, head of entrepreneurs organization. And he's doing stupid things with these things. And that's the reality.
I think I was, to his defense, I think I was encouraging him.
No, but the fact is that when he did it, it's something that will happen to everybody here. You buy a drone, it doesn't come with a training course. Nobody arrives at your house and says, okay, let's assemble this thing for you. Let's show you how to do it. There's an element of risk. You fly it inside your house, you take your kids out.
So with that in mind, okay, taking your kids, it could be dangerous. I took my kids with that and gave them the controls. But if we're heading inexorably to a drone-filled sky, Raj, I know you've been chatting to some of the authorities on these matters. What kind of regulatory restrictions are we going to see to be put in place in the near future?
Yeah. Before I answer, just want to follow up on Sean's. We need to separate between the hobbyists and the commercial.
Absolutely,
purpose.
sure.
The numbers which he probably referred to, the 2 billion earlier, really is not about sales of drones. That's kind of irrelevant, and it's not going to contribute. It's really the services in the disruption that you can use drones to replace, for instance, a helicopter pilot and a helicopter which costs 50,000 an hour to fly, with a drone service which is about a fifth of the cost. And those are the sort of services that we want to work on to really provide safety, efficiency, and price points. But if you look at the regulatory environment, you've got the RPL license, which Heidi and Sean talked about. I mean, you shouldn't be doing anything commercial or crazy stuff like Richard, without even going through some of that. We have managed to get the cost down to about 30,000. Sean, you need to look at probably better than that. but that's a huge cost for a person, to do, and the companies have to bear it, or the individuals. So that's huge. You've got what's called a ROC, which is a commercial license, and there's about 10 organizations in South Africa done. And that's between Department of Transport and CAA, and there's two different licenses that you have to get to do that. If you look at a country like Rwanda, okay, the regulatory regime, I don't know whether you've heard about their drone port, so the drones will come and roost in an airport, which is used for specifically that purpose. There's a lot of trials happening in that sector, like with Zipline and a couple of others in terms of medicine delivery and so. So, however, it is very sensitive. It requires, it's more aviation than many others, as Sean said. However, it has the potential of creating jobs. We would like to create about 10,000 of the 40,000 jobs that was just mentioned as Omnipresent Global, and we're in a drive to do that. It empowers rural communities. Many of these mines and construction power projects in the Karoo and stuff, you don't want someone driving from Gauteng to go and do whatever inspection needs to be done there. That will be done locally. So this technology has the absolute possibility of changing people's lives. You don't have your electromechanical savvy person can do it, right? You don't have to have very, very, very specific skills. You have to have the medical license and stuff. So the regulators are in a very tough position. East Africa and Burundi, those type of places have opened up a lot to allow for specific stuff. For instance, you're not allowed to go past a road, a public road. So you can do it in a public, a private mine or farm, which is another big example of it. But you can't go over a road at the moment, So that's maybe follow Heidi's experience and walk it down, and push it through, and then go fly after that. There's probably an answer to that. But the possibility, look, CAA and DOT are in a very tough position because they want to open it up, but they still have to go through a very rigorous process, and unfortunately for many people it's quite cumbersome and expensive at the moment.
Okay, so Heidi, then in terms of, you painted a picture earlier of these different layers, and almost like the stratospheres within the skies that are going to be allocated towards the different types of drones. Let's talk about flying cars and passenger drones. Is it really realistic? I think about myself and how I drive. I consider myself a fairly decent driver, but I've got a new, double cab Bakkie, and it's, I've dinged it twice since I've got it, and they're little dings, but they're dings, and I think, I've been driving for 2 decades. So how realistic is it that we're going to be driving cars in the sky at 300 kilometers per hour with little training or a little bit of training and so on? Is that really realistic?
So I think the thing that will make it happen is that you take that completely out of the equation, that I have to go and be a pilot in order to fly something. That's why I think some of the manufacturers who are like, here's our car, and then you need a runway, and then we'll take off. Like, that's great, but I can't see that being anything other than recreational, like some billionaire showing off, like my flying car. If it's autonomous, meaning that I just press a button on my iPad and the thing lifts off on its own and it just drops me off where I need to go, that's a game changer. And that's where manufacturers need to go, okay? So take out the human element completely, and then it can be a reality. And I firmly believe that we're in a stage of humankind's advancement, that everything is there to make that happen, like autonomous stuff, self-driving cars, artificial intelligence. All the tech is there to make it happen. But I kind of think that the regulators like get a little bit on top of themselves, like they're so panicked, like they don't know what to do. Like the guys from the 1800s, like let's make someone walk in front of a car with a flag. Like that was their solution.
It's kind of how I feel though.
It's
you know?
crazy.
Like I don't want to see like it's almost like that movie Fifth Element where
with like all
they're
buzzing
all
around
like
the-
buzzing
yeah.
around. It
Yeah, I think
seems
that's gonna
chaotic.
Yeah.
And there's no roads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it feels like you're kind of at the mercy of a machine, and
Yeah, I like that.
and
I think
you
that's
know,
cool.
there's a sense
think
of a
that's
loss of
awesome.
control. I like
Let the
driving
machines
my
do
car.
it. Let the internet do it
you
for
know?
me. Like, why would I want to have to think about it?
So I mean, okay, then getting back to then the commercial side of things, looking at the different industries that we're going to be disrupting. I mean, which industries do you think will benefit the most from this disruptive technology?
If I can,
Yeah,
if I can
yeah.
jump in, I mean, the one that you've heard about a lot is deliveries.
Yeah.
And, you know, Amazon is currently piloting because the general American is
lot of
quite,
freaking drones.
yeah, but it's quite, you know, wants their item that they bought, not in 24 hours, but in 2 hours. And that's the SLA that they want to try and do. And as Heidi said, the only way to do that at the end of the day in the logistics distribution is through a drone. It'll pick it up from a DC, a distribution center, and deliver it to your house through a window, which you have programmed. You know, it'll conveniently do that and drop off that. Now, what's the size of the article, you know, that it can carry, or the parcel, you know? So that's definitely feasible. In fact, it can happen today, you know, and that's pre-programmed, autonomous. It'll just find your address, come and drop it off. Now, in South Africa, probably someone will shoot the drone to pick up the drone and the parcel, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we need to get around, and that's why we haven't completely just immediately gone and done that, you know, that let alone if the regulations allow for it, you know. So that's one example which Uber is doing in the passenger side and the parcel and Uber Eats, etc. So that's definitely the pizza example. You know, you want it in 5 minutes and it'll come to your house in 5 minutes.
You know, I personally don't think that's the reality. Certainly not in the South African context, and certainly not in the near future. I think you'll see deliveries, you'll see people being moved around by drones in some locations, in some possibly in California, possibly Dubai, somewhere it'll be done for sure. But it's not going to be, in my opinion, it's not going to be a mainstream thing. I think when one looks at drones and say, what can drones do right now? If I'm asked what a drone is there for, it's to make things safer. If you look at anything working at height, if you're working on unstable platforms, security, instability, etc., that's where a drone really comes in right now, and it's available right now. The idea of flying beyond visual line of sight, which is, the law says that a drone shouldn't be flown more than 500 meters away. And 500 meters is not far. You think, 500 meters, you can't do much in 500 meters. Excuse me. But a phantom is difficult to see at 500 meters. The reality is that beyond visual line of sight is really where drone technology starts to kick in for a lot of things. So deliveries, etc., it's all got to be done beyond visual line of sight. And at the moment, the law is very clear that says that any aircraft has to be piloted. There has to be somebody in control of it. So yes, the technology is there. Yes, you can push a button and it'll arrive. And that's what people are struggling with, because they say, I can take my Phantom and I can program it to fly around my yard or wherever I want, and it does it and it lands on its own. So why do I need a license, and why do I need this and why do I need that? The reality is it's a regulated industry, and it's regulated by the Civil Aviation Authority. So until those laws are changed, a lot of things that are very easy to do technically are not going to be possible. And if you think about delivery, delivery then stretches that to the next level. So I think right now what you'll see is working at height. If any of you have ever been into a large industrial site or a mine, as you're driving in, you see so much focus on safety. Is your seatbelt on? Look left, look right, hold on to the banister when you climb the stairs, don't talk on your phone and walk. Somebody will grab you and shake you if you don't hold the banister going up 3 stairs. And you think that's ridiculous. But in those environments, safety and prevention of injury at work is a big deal. And so drones play to that. You do not have to climb up on somewhere, set up scaffolding or harnesses, etc. That drones do right now. And you can see clients taking that technology and using it practically today. And they're prepared to pay for it because it reduces costs in many cases, but primarily it makes their working environment safer. And so I think that's what we'll see in the next probably 3 to 5 years. You'll see a lot of drone technology being taken up in all industrial spaces. So you've got drone projects in counting stock in big warehouses. You've got drone security, private security stuff that's being developed, autonomous that you'd have in your own yard. I think longer term, you're going to see the medical side coming up, where it's sort of critical time frames. If you have a snake bite, or you've got something that you need, a very small, very light parcel delivered very quickly, and you're prepared to pay a premium, or the premium is that saving someone's life, I think you'll see drones coming into that. But my personal view is that a pizza delivery, or a pack of smokes or something like that, it's all just an opportunity to demonstrate technology. And ultimately, there's a big VC component in the US, and if you can do something like that, you can say, we're the company that can deliver stuff to someone's house. Imagine what the opportunity is. Somebody will invest a lot of money in you. So Raj might talk to that, but my personal view is that the drone world is going to grow exponentially, but I think there's much more practical benefits of using drones right now than having a pizza delivered.
Yeah, I mean, Raj, you spoke about the size of the prize, the size of the numbers that we're talking about. Where's the money going? I mean, where do you see the most investment happening, and where's it the most exciting in terms of that investment?
So we have been asked to start building drones locally. And at the moment, we just can't justify the business case. There isn't enough of a market, especially in the commercial industrial applications like Sean's talking about. These drones are worth $500,000 and above, even million. So, but we are working with the likes of the IDC, because they are very interested in, can we, as South Africa, do we have the knowledge, the R&D capability? CSIR has built drones. Various other very research-led companies in South Africa have built very specific military, obviously, drones. So funding can go into that and work on that, but the majority of the money, I agree here with Sean, is going to go in the industrial and commercial applications, inspection of power, energy like solar farms, construction, power line inspection. Currently with drones you hear about the Kruger project, for wildlife protection, etc. You hear about that's filming. So that is also a big part, but that's the primitive use of drone technologies. There are many. Lastly, it's the interconnect between drone technology, which is capturing video footage, analytics, and Internet of Things, the sensors, which is going to be, and I think Sean alluded to that. And the companies that focus on getting the integration right with smart intelligence, traffic, patterns, are the ones that are going to really go and succeed.
It's exciting stuff. I mean, I think just from a personal note, just to wrap this up, I think I've personally felt the impact in terms of one of the companies that I've invested in. It's an e-commerce startup run by my partner Kaylee, and we were looking at creating a promotional video. This video we launched a couple of weeks ago, and it went viral. The video itself was primarily drone footage taken in the Transkei. Now, for a startup, obviously, as you know, it's quite difficult to get promotional stuff out there, and justify the cost. And it was so accessible. We got a drone photographer from the area, and subsequently created the most unbelievable footage, which, if you look at that 2 years ago, it would have cost you an absolute fortune. I mean, it cost us next to nothing to create this video, and it went viral. And subsequently got a lot of attention from this, and we've had production companies across South Africa asking us for that footage because it was such good footage. So that's a sort of, it's unbelievable. It's almost, there's an ancillary benefit to these things in terms of where you invest and how it can impact you. But guys, I'm gonna close up there, and I just wanted to say thank you, particularly Heidi, for the talk earlier, and thank you guys, just for your contribution, and also just exciting us and giving us inspiration for the future of drones.